Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, here with RDV. Tonight's show, Kicking It. We are covering off of our men's getaway where we went over to the Bahamas. We actually saw a film there that's going to be coming out here in the United States in a few weeks, and that's Fast and the Furious 9. RDV, I got to be honest with you. I hadn't seen the last couple of Fast and Furious films, so some of the names and some of the storylines and plots, if you want to call it that, I really couldn't friggin' follow in this. We know that it's supposed to be about really dumb, stupid action, not just with cars. It's jumped the shark about 9 movies ago. And that's okay, because for some reason, this franchise, and I do call it a very big movie franchise, and that's something we're going to be talking about in a moment, is that we expect that, and we know what we're getting, and it's the perfect kind of summer popcorn type film if you're into that sort of thing, which about a hour into this film, I'd find myself just kind of twiddling my thumbs because it's more of the same old stuff that I just don't seem to like on the big screen. CGI nonsense and everything else there too. And while I enjoyed the first film and maybe a couple of the other ones along the way, I think if I had to describe this in one word, it would be meh. You know, and I don't know if that's because of, when we saw it after we were gambling, we were a little inebriated, consuming copious amounts of adult beverages. But for me, I don't hate these films. They're not hateable, but there's not much to like about them. And so I'm probably going to take a lot of heat for this, too, especially with the other action films we cover here on Kickin' It. So let me ask you, what's your initial impression about this film?
It was kind of interesting, but it just felt like a giant reunion. It's like we're gonna get everybody who's pretty much from all the past films, bring them in for nostalgia. We're gonna retcon John Cena into being Dom's brother, that we didn't even know about for the past 8 films.
Bro,
I know. It's like, and then have him be a bad guy, and then they took the chance for this movie where we're gonna show the real story, why Dom, beat the guy to death, that with a wrench.
Right.
I mean, I'll give it credit because the guy who played young Dom actually looked a little bit like Dom, because Dom was supposed to be 16 or 17 years old when he did this.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. There's some comedy early on, through the film, and it's the same comedy they've been doing, where Tyrese Gibson's character Roman, he always gets a situation where he's going to die, but he doesn't die, and even Ludacris calls it out. His character Tej, he's like, how is this guy still alive? It's like you see him just get blown up by a mine, and he just walks out without no scratch. But.
Yeah, Zach's in the house. I was just saying we're going to be doing minor spoilers at best. We don't want to go hardcore into this because of the release date and everything too. But since we saw it, it's something we wanted to kind of tackle. Because here's the thing about the Furious franchise. When I say it's a franchise, we talk about some great franchises, whether they're good or they're bad. Lots of movies get made. They make a lot of money. They may be of various degrees of quality, but this is no Mission Impossible, and it's not expected to be. But despite my general reluctance to watch the Furious films because they just don't do it for me, the one thing I can't give it credit for is that when you watch a film like this, even if you don't know the storylines and maybe you forget some stuff, you usually, just because of sheer replayability with all the films, you go, okay, the person that did this, okay, I sort of remember this, I sort of remember that. You don't have to think too hard about it, and you can just say, okay, let them tell us what the setup's going to be, and then we'll watch what's going on, except for what they're doing with Cena in here, of course, which you just mentioned. And the thought occurred to me, there's not very many franchise movies. Now, I know there's a lot of tentpole movies out there and big comic book type movies. That being said, I put those in a different category than this type of movie, because this is quote unquote live action, except for there's just as much CGI there is in everything. But there was a time, back in the 80s when most everything was practical effects, which is a period that you and I have a preference for and intend to enjoy a bit more. So I got to sit there and say that I appreciate the ludicrous nature of them trying to do different things and trying to outdo it next movie, and that's the whole shtick to it. In many ways, it's like a juvenile Mission Impossible film where you go, okay, what's the big stunt they're going to do in this film, right? So I can't really hate on it too much or whatever. I know it's going to do gangbusters over here, but there's not a lot of ensemble movies these days. Even the Ocean's 11, 12, 13 movies, those are neat because not only they're heist films, which have their own magical appeal, they are a smorgasbord of different actors that you may like or not or whatever, and they all get their chance to shine. And at least Furious puts together a group of people that for going on about 20 years now, you can sit there and say they do. So I have to give them credit for that. And frankly, these movies would not be made if they were not making money and not being public. So I can certainly acknowledge that. So I don't want to bang on the film. I don't want to give out too many major spoilers to it. I appreciate the fact that Kurt Russell was brought into it, a few films earlier, just because I'm a huge Kurt Russell mark, and to get a chance to see him anything before he dies is always special for me. But yeah, I think as a franchise, it's good. They're, I think, going to do 10 and 11, and then that's going to be it. But, it's just, again, it's one of those films I just go, if you're into that sort of thing, go ahead and check it out. It's not horrible, but it's really more of the same. I don't think there was anything earth-shattering or groundbreakingly different about it. The retcon about Cena, though, you mentioned, I've got to bring this up. Do you think that's a good thing?
I know they're trying to get somebody in because, well, they don't have Brian O'Connor, they don't have Paul Walker, even though they probably could, with all the CG they do in this film, they could have cut back 10% and brought in his brother Cody, and still digital his Paul's face over it. Right. It probably isn't that hard to do. But it just seems like they kind of, because like this movie, they brought in Mia, but they didn't bring in I don't think they even explained where Brian was. If anything, it just seems like Brian's just because she's there helping out Dom. It felt like, okay, I guess Brian's a stay-at-home dad. I was like, what is going on here? Because because the last thing we saw was they saw them in 7, is where him and Dom split, so they didn't bring him. He wasn't involved in 8, and now 9. It's like, yeah, it felt kind of weird, but as far as John Cena's character, it's just you look at John Cena now. The younger versions look more like they're closer in age,
right?
Yeah, and then obviously John Cena is supposed to be the younger brother, but now you see them when John Cena standing next to Vin Diesel, especially in the movie. It's like, dude is he looks older. He looks like he looks nothing like It's like, yeah, I know I haven't seen you since game, but I haven't been working out. I've been taking steroids. It's like because the whole thing is that Dom is supposed to be all jacked up. He's supposed to be not really a muscle person, but he's always been known in the movies as the more muscular guy. He's the one who gets the fights. Yeah. And then you see John Cena, who's 3 times his size. In just strength, and just height almost.
I gotta say this.
It felt so unrealistic.
And that's the whole thing, is that I certainly don't begrudge an actor or an individual, should they have the resources and whether or not they want to get educated on it, if they want to do a steroid cycle or HGH or test or whatever. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Just like it doesn't bother me if a woman chooses to go down the plastic surgery method. It doesn't bother me. It's there for film. It's their choice. They're adults. They've got gazillions of tons of money, and they're trying to make lots of money, so they all do it. But look, Vin Diesel was never a big guy, and film adds a lot, and you can do sorts of things. But I will say this: there's a few scenes in here where even though John Cena's lost some of his, top level weight, let's say when he was wrestling, he's still a big dude. He's thick. He's well proportioned. He's not obscenely exaggerated, like say The Rock is. But Cena is not a small dude, and he's got good proportions, so he doesn't look like he's tall and lanky or short and squat, right? But there's several scenes in here where these two are together, and I'm looking at the screen going, God, they're filming it from an angle, and it just stood out to me so much where you just go, it looks like he's the same size as Cena, and I'm like, come on, it's not, if I wear a dark jacket, it's going to slim up my looks, and if he wears the white wife beater, it might make him look the same. But it's like, who are you kidding me? And then one of the things about John Cena I will say is he's one of those actors, much like The Rock, that he kind of is okay on screen, but I feel like he's just trying and just needs to have a drink or two and loosen up and just be more natural. I feel like he's trying too hard, and he's a hard worker from what I understand. I'm not knocking him on that, but it's hard for me not to see Super Cena, You know, when he was being a goof and not trying too hard, he was the rapper John Cena in WWE. And that was when a lot of people kind of enjoyed him. I thought he was the most entertaining. When he was Super Cena and a good guy, it felt forced. That's why everybody hated him. In this movie here, the thing is, he gets plenty of screen time. You know, obviously there's a few big standout action scenes with him in there, and he does those finds. But this movie, it stopped being a driving movie to me several movies ago, and it's kind of like a hybrid action movie where you're going to have it. And it's just what I liked about the Fast and Furious, the way it started, was it did kind of touch on the subculture about people modifying their cars, doing different things with the gas, and the subculture that wasn't really prevalent. And it was so popular and such a hit at the time that everybody with a Honda Civic, and a piece of crap little fart can on the back of it had them, right? Now it's like they're trying to be this $200 million, $300 budget movie, and I don't think it's good that way. I just felt it was better when it was a lot smaller and a little more crafted the way, rather than this globe-trotting international phenomenon thing, complete with tons of gun shootouts and everything else. And if I want that, I'll watch James Bond cry, when the movie doesn't get released, and get outshined by all the wokeness in his movie, or whatever. Or if I want to watch a real serious one, I'll watch the Mission Impossible. So I just feel like Fast and Furious has kind of lost its way, and they've just slapped together a bunch of things, and it's just, they do it good enough where you're like, that's okay, but it's just not good. It's just not bad. It's just sort of there. And that's what I'm saying about Cena. He's just sort of there.
Yeah, like I said, this movie, the first one was majority was a lot of street racing in this. So, and it was now it's, like I said, it's since the second one, even the second one actually had a little more action in it, and it had some racing in it too.
Right.
It was, in Tokyo Drift also had racing, and so we got to number 4. I think that's the one where they had to rob the bank, or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but with the tank and all stuff. That's when it got ridiculous. It's like, and since then it's like, well, we gotta top it. We gotta make it even more and stuff. And it's just like, it just becomes more and more and like this kind of blown out of proportion. But and the fact that you don't have Paul Walker was a huge part of the film franchise, and not having him there. I know they're trying to go on, but it's just like, to me personally, it doesn't feel the same. And bringing Mia in because all of a sudden we have a long lost brother. I'm thinking like, okay, obviously he's adopted. He looks nothing like them, it's like, hi, I'm your brother. It's like, okay, did mom cheat? Did dad cheat? What's going on? Are you adopted? They did have, I think one of the cool actors in here was actually the guy who plays Merle on The Walking Dead. He plays Merle Dixon. Michael Rooker. Yeah.
Michael Rooker.
Rooker was good. It was refreshing to see him in more stuff because, like, the guy's a phenomenal actor. I love whenever he does. He always plays like either the nice guy or he plays the seedy guy. He plays him well too. But like you said, just throwing John Cena here at this point, it's like, does it really matter? Because like everything they do is like over the top nonsense. Kurt Russell here playing Mr. Nobody, a spy. I mean, it's cool. Kurt Russell's still getting stuff, but it's like. I don't know if they're trying to make these movies family friendly or what's going on, because like it's just, like I said, they're trying to compete with like the likes of Tom Cruise's movies, like his spy movies.
We have to address what you're saying, because that's the elephant in the room, the white element. Because as we all have known recently with John Cena and everything, his apology to China, you can't Z me, is the phrase going around, because John Cena came out.
You saw him in the movie. I didn't see him at all. I heard his voice.
They took American Cena and replaced him with Chinese commie Cena. But
John
China. John China. Doctor of Communomics. I don't know.
Yes.
That's one of the issues that is prevalent, and it's no longer a hidden secret that a lot of these major blockbusters movies are made for an international audience. Frankly, that's how you and I got a chance to see it, because it had been released overseas. We did our little annual poker get-together thing for the weekend over the holiday, and it was kind of nice. The COVID protocols weren't really heavily enforced, let's just say, because we were in international waters, if that's how people like to think of it. So whatever, having a good time and all that. But the one thing I noticed in the theater that we were at is that people just seemed to be kind of like, yeah, whatever, and it seemed more about the popularity of the people that are in it than rather the weightiness of the movie. And again, it's like I've complained, and this is where you and I diverge slightly, is that I'm not really a fan of a lot of the comic book movies. I just think they're too long. I think they're boring. I don't think they're very entertaining. They're CGI slop fest with horrible writing, and there's nothing really great about them. But I know that people that have grown up on certain characters or graphic novels, to see that actualized on the big screen is a tremendous fulfilling positive moment. Because again, you wouldn't see movies like this 30, 40 years ago for the most part. So to me, when you see John Cena and The Rock and everybody and a lot of Hollywood studios basically say, okay, we'll take a lot of the Chinese money. We'll do, of course, you have product placement and everything else that'll offset our budget. We don't have to make as much here in the United States because, when it releases in China, the Chinese audience is now getting the Americanized versions of films that we don't care for, and American films are turning into Chinese type films. So it's kind of weird that we've exported our culture to China because the Chinese audience wants them, yet we're getting movies that we are not used to because China's going to be a big place of money for them. I mean, yeah, Europe always gets a little bit, Russia a little bit, but really it's China and then everybody else too. So it's no wonder that films lack an American feel. And while a great diverse cast like this in here is nice, again, there's an element of feeling that it's forced, that you have Asian representation, of course, female representation. It's not like you said before how it started off with Paul Walker and Vin Diesel together, and it's really the chemistry between them, and you had a couple other characters in there too. It's just grown so big that it's just milquetoast. It's really unfortunate, but this is how movies are made these days.
The one thing this film did right, though, bringing back cast members from previous movies, especially like playing the guy who plays Sean and Bow Wow's character and Jason Tobin. They reprised their roles as Twinkle and Earl from Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. They didn't just get a nod, a scene, and then it was done. They actually were a part of the movie, a part of the plot, which I thought was really cool. It's like, wow, they actually didn't just give them a nod. Hey, give my $5 or $500. There you go. It's like they actually kept them in the movie and they were integral to the plot. So that was cool too for fans. Like I said, I always loved Tokyo Drift because it was a different story. It had nothing to do with Brian or Dom. There was nobody else in there. It was a standalone movie, and I said I love the character.
Well, they did something with the whole Fast and Furious. They said, hey, we have something on our hands instead of regurgitating the same, because eventually that does run out. What can we do with it? And somebody did something with it. And you're right. It was engaging a lot more than it probably should have been, simply because somebody took it and said, okay, what can I do with this and keep it in the franchise?
So the one thing you're gonna realize when you start watching this film is like, wow, everybody got old.
It's been 20 years.
Watching 2001, when the first film came out, I think it was 2002 or something.
Right, yeah, about 20 years ago.
They gave Michelle Rodriguez a bad haircut, and she looks old, but she's only like 40. She looks older though. She's got the mom cut, just shorter hair and just cut that way. She's wearing the overalls. I'm like, man, you went from being like the girl who said she's never gonna be old, you're always gonna look like you're in your 20s, to looking like you're in your 50s. I was waiting for her to start planting flowers.
And John Cena at that age, it's not like he's at that age where he doesn't look young, but he doesn't look old. So you just notice he doesn't look young or old, and so you kind of notice what his age looks like. It might be the hair dye or whatever. And he's not an ugly guy or anything like that. It's just that's how some people are. It's just the magic movies. Sometimes you can only disguise stuff so much.
So basically, if you're a fan of these films, you're gonna probably enjoy this film too, because it's the same kind of stuff with Tyrese, Gibbons' character, Roman always getting into trouble and freaking out over things. Everybody's playing their classic roles. The only thing different is you got John Cena here playing the bad guy, playing the brother that was cast away because I'm not gonna explain why, but like I said, they do show them racing when they're younger. They do show his dad, Dom Toretto's dad and stuff at the races at the racetrack. I mean, that's kind of cool. Like I said, the guy that played the young Dom, he nailed it. They showed Letty in there for like a brief second, but the girl who they chose to look like Letty didn't really look like Letty. She had the straight hair and stuff. Jason Statham, he makes a uncredited cameo at the end credits as reprising his Deckard Shaw, but he's not in the movie other than that. Gal Gadot's, she's in there like a second, but it's a clip though. It's not even really her. It's just a clip from a different movie.
Mm-hmm.
They brought back characters in this. Like I said, you're gonna. Like I said, if you love their big over the top movies, you're gonna like this. Cypher's in here too. Cypher is also the bad guy too. She's also as part working with what's his name, John Cena's character, and they brought another guy too.
Z.
Yeah.
Zeeper. Cypher. Yeah. Cypher and Zeeper.
So it's like you're getting like and I gotta say though, Charlize Theron, haircut, a Cypher, she looks like Justin Bieber or Lloyd Christmas. She's got the bowl cut going. She's got the
now playing on HBO Max.
That bowl cut is horrendous, But I want to bring up though, this movie is, if you look at Wikipedia, they're talking about Hong Kong and South Korea, where it was released originally in May, back in May, and it actually got up to not worldwide, but it got up to $229 million at the box office internationally. Now, with a budget of $200 million, it hasn't hit the United States yet. It's not until June 25th. It'll be at theaters and on streaming as well. I'm wondering how much it's gonna make, because at this point, either you love it or you hate these movies. You're over it, But I think with especially with a lot of people where there's not competition, I think this movie's gonna do well.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree with that totally.
There was nothing really coming out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we already saw the trailer last year, and most people were like, okay, that's it. Okay, whatever. We don't really care.
Right. I think, well, it's a combination of things you talked about. Either you love or you hate the franchise. I'm indifferent, really, at best. I'm not hating on it. I like the first couple films. So to me, I'll put it on, if it's on again, maybe, and just for background. So it doesn't really piss me off, or it doesn't do anything that irritates me. But it is one of those action type things. And it's been delayed, unfortunately, like a lot of other films and TV shows. So it is what it is. But that I'm down here in Central Florida, just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Pine Hills Palace. And everything's opening up now, so it's really awesome. There's a lot more cars out there. I'm starting to see the theaters get a lot of cars in the parking lot and everything too. Where you're at, are the theaters 100% yet?
They're pretty much getting back to normal. Especially with right now, I think it's pretty much right after Biden said that if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. Now,
right.
if you're not, you have to wear a mask still. So pretty much no one's wearing a mask now, because I can't say that everybody went out there and got the shot, but I know a lot of people are just not caring anymore. They're like, what? Now because you can't really ask somebody, hey, did you get the shot or not? No one plays going to go up there. They're risking losing their job. And
exactly.
So, and like I said, companies aren't going to force it. Walmart doesn't even force it, the mask law, as much as as you think they would. They have to sign up there, but after everything happened last year with our people getting the fights and arguments, they stopped making issue of it. I said, so basically everything's pretty much getting back to normal where I live.
Good. Yeah, my final thoughts on this one would be is that because we're trying to be spoiler free as much as possible here about it. And then you said it best. If you like this sort of film, you're getting pretty much more of the same. It's decent enough for what it is. I'll put on an action movie by default just because I want violence occasionally. When it's dumb or it's too much, I kind of laugh at it rather than get mad. And that's kind of what happened to me with this film. But that's what I expect from this film, so I don't have a high standard for it. And that's okay. It meets its expectations. And if, it's not going to fail you, I think, in that regard. Do I think it's a good film? It's good for what it is. Would I rather watch some other stuff? Yes. But the problem is that there's not as many action films or thrillers out there these days compared to what there used to be. That's why, here on Kickin' It, we like to cover a lot of older action films. But I will say this, it reminds me in a way of the Rush Hour films, and that's like this. The Rush Hour first film was good. The second film was fantastic. Third one, a lot of time went past. so it lost its mojo. And I guess Chris Tucker wanted 20 million, and then they finally said, "Fine, let's do it. Let's get it over with." And it was like an 80-minute film, and you could tell they were just going through the motions. At least here for the Furious films, even though there's more of them, maybe they're not as high quality as the first two Rush Hour films. They're at least consistently giving you enough of probably what you want, where you're going to be like, okay, that's not bad. And if you've been starved to get out and go see a movie with explosions and the whole experience and all that, this will fit your bill. Personally, I'm waiting for the Mission Impossible films myself, because those ever since Mission Impossible 3 have gotten better and better and better. So, you know, hey, go see them both if you want, but it is what it is. I'm not too fast, like I'm going to go see it again, but I'm not too furious that I saw it either, if that makes sense.
I knew you're going there. I do want to point out, though, I was kind of let down with this movie, though, because I felt like more of the action was in the beginning. And you'll see why when they all get together, wheels up when they go, and
if you want to look at it that way, I would agree. The first act is more. I'd say it's probably the better part of the movie. Yeah, I mean the end does have a lot of action too, and it also has some stupid stuff too. A carefully crafted first act.
Yeah, and like I said, pretty much the first half an hour, because this is 2 hours and 40 minutes. Yeah, or something like that.
At times it feels like it too.
Yeah. Well, the middle part, I'd say. But
every time I go take a dump or get your popcorn.
The first half an hour, and it feels like a half an hour they're doing this in the action scene, is pretty much they're paying all the stunt doubles and stunt drivers. Because like I said, I think that's also where they got a lot of the CG from too, and it's where you first meet John Cena's character, and and I gotta say, like, one thing we know about from Fast and Furious previous movies is that they're putting sports cars on roads where they don't belong, and they're unbelievable because the suspension would be gone.
Don't think. Just don't think. Right? We know this by now. Don't think. Going there stoned, high, whatever, under the influence, you'll like it even more.
Logic is out the window when you buy a ticket.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Fast and Furious 9 here on Kickin' It, along with RDV. I'm Rob, your host here at the Xtreme Movie Show. Zach, I hope you see it. Tell us what you think about it as well. I'm sure it's one of the more popular films that's going to come out this summer. I'm not sure where you're at and others, but like I say, down here in Central Florida, things are opening up. We're getting back to almost normal schedule, so we're definitely going to be getting a chance to go over some more of these summer movies, which is definitely something we want to do. So until next week, when we do another action film here on Kick It, I'd like to thank RDV, Zach, and everybody else for showing up tonight to discuss Fast and Furious 9. I'm your host, Rob. Thanks for listening. As always, stay extreme.
Stay furious.
Stay fast, bro. I'm fast, bro. Too fast.